Welcome. It is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on what? Well, their area of expertise. Of course, I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather. He got a great lineup of things on today's schedule. Started things off with the fine folks at Pro Response Restoration. We got Cody Wolff in studio. We got Logan Albert joining him as well. Real quick before we get to those guys, you can find them online at www.pro-response.com. That's pro-response.com. Phone number, if you want to reach out to them, it's 469-858-1811. That's 469-858-1811. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you guys back in the studio. How y'all doing today?
We're doing pretty awesome.
Pretty good. All right. Well, I tell you what, we got a lot to do, a lot going on today. And I tell you what, let's just jump into things. It's been a while since we had you in studio, so why don't you lay out to the listeners, tell them what Pro Response Restoration is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a little while. We Pro Response Restoration. Brought Logan here. He's actually was brought over in an acquisition. Today we're really going to focus in on the content side of our industry. Very important piece, especially because you're dealing with people's personal belongings, things like that. So a pretty important aspect of the whole claims process. But we're a white glove VIP type pro restoration company, really kind of assisting in all aspects of disaster restoration. So anytime floods in your home, fires. We're having a lot of storm issues right now, so a lot of those things happening. It's that time of the year, so we really just want to be there, be that concierge, and help people through this process.
I was to say, we're really in storm season, essentially, in the DFW in North Texas, so I'm sure you guys are really kind of busy right now.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's get right into things, and let's talk a little bit about that, and we'll start off with content pack out. What does that content pack out and cleaning mean in an insurance claim?
Well, before I got to this industry, I didn't know that this was even a thing, but a pack out would be, a disaster hits your house. The last thing you need to worry about is moving everything out of the way of everybody. Say your whole house is affected. That's a lot of stuff you have to worry about. We'd come in, we'd just itemize everything, take a bunch of pictures, pack it all out, get it out of the house for you. And after your remodel's done, after all the restoration's been complete, we'll take it back, put everything right back where it was, so you don't have to worry about any moving at all, really. So, that and the cleaning, it's just, if any of your contents are affected by water, soot, fire, asbestos, if you're unfortunate enough to have that happen, we can take care of it. Everything that can be cleaned will be cleaned, and it'll all be back as good as it was before.
Now, if you're in that situation, like you said, hopefully that's not the case. But if it does happen. What happens when furniture or belongings are damaged or what? How do you go about that?
Well, there's a little bit of a process. Obviously, you want to get those items inspected. You can tell when something potentially could be unsalvageable. Ceilings cave in, drywall, debris over couches, bed frames, beds, mattresses can cause staining. Obviously, you have a lot of furniture is built with particle board nowadays. So water hits that, it typically is just going to swell up. You can't fix the legs. Finish will dissipate. So, really getting that inspected, see if it's something that can be restored. Surprisingly, a lot can, depending on the category of water. Dealing with, flood water from outside or clean water or even sewage. Those things obviously can potentially not be salvaged, and so, you can get reimbursed for those items. But there's a lot of companies out there that really specialize in fixing furniture, and you'd be surprised what you can restore, clean, and get it back to new condition, or at least the condition it was prior to that. So really first thing is inspection, seeing what can be saved and what non-salvageable, and really getting that list to your carrier.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty interesting, because I would assume if they do get that wet or they're pretty much done, but if you guys kind of evaluate it and there's a possibility that you can restore it.
It's easier to say what can't be restored, because a lot of things can be, just depending on your attachment to them and the cost. But mainly it would be cost efficiency. Like if you got a box of moldy plastic hangers, it's going to cost some money to clean that.
Yeah.
It'd be cheaper to just get new hangers, and the right insurance would just buy you new ones. But, things that can't be repaired, if insulation or asbestos or mold hits a couch or a mattress, any large fabric items, it's really hard to guarantee that that's clean for sure, that kind of thing. So mattresses, some textiles, like really high-end or kind of unique clothing, that's tough. Some electronics won't be saved.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
And like Cody was saying, any swollen wood or particle board, it just disintegrates. You can't really bring that back.
Well, and I guess you kind of talked about that right there, but let's build off it a little bit. Who decides if something is restorable? I mean, obviously it can be repaired, but who makes that decision?
That'd be really on us.
Okay.
We're the experts, so we're going to bring someone in if it's something we can't determine or potentially something a little outside of our wheelhouse, high-end art, things like that. We're going to bring in specialists that specialize in that. Firearms is a really big one as well.
Yeah.
People are really curious about, hey, this stuff got wet, rusted, things like that. So we'll bring in some experts if necessary, but we can also that's really our job is to go in, inspect, build an inventory list, and actually help yourself, maximize what potentially is damaged, and also work with your carrier and adjuster to make sure that those get replaced or give them a value of potential restoration.
And we've talked about this before, and it's something I'd like to bring up again. You guys do a multitude of things, and if you can't do it, you got some top-notch professionals that you can point in the right direction for these folks.
Absolutely. We want to be that full circumference, concierge. So if we can't do it, we'll find someone to make sure that give you the best chance possible, an expert in that.
I know this is a great topic of conversation because a lot of people always have questions in regards to insurance and whatnot. If they're in this situation, where would they find this coverage and limit in their policy?
Well, coverage is, your declaration page. It's always a good idea, once in a while to review that. Okay. I was actually looking at some recently, especially when you get into larger losses, fires, things like that. A lot less is going to be restorable, unfortunately, if it's burned. So having that, looking at your policy coverages, you're going to have different coverages. They usually list them A, B, C, D, and you have your dwelling, which covers, structural stuff, baseboards, paint, drywall, those sort of things. But then this would fall under your personal property. So make sure you have a value, reevaluate your home. You buy new stuff, make sure that you're, updating your policy because you may purchase a really expensive bedroom set and you want to make sure that you're going to have the amount to cover that in case, anything were to be damaged. So that's definitely, take a look at that. It explains it fairly well, usually under personal property, and that is, that does have limits. So make sure that you have a limit that will cover your belongings. Yeah,
and I like how you mentioned the updated, essentially, because I think this is one of those things that people kind of overlook until something bad happens. So to keep it, I just think annually, I guess you could keep your insurance, keep your, your policy up to date, because I don't know how many stories we hear where somebody doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know what they're working with in regards to their policy until something's too late and the worst case scenarios happen.
Right, and just a little segue on that one is, especially if you're a tenant, a lot of people rent homes right now. You're usually required to have a renter's policy, and that's going to cover. Happened to actually our sister a few weeks ago had a loss in her apartment building, and she was concerned that wait, I have to pay for this. Well, that's why you have your renter's insurance policy is going to cover your items, your personal property. And, make sure you keep an eye on that. Make sure it's sufficient to cover your needs, because that's usually the worst case is after a loss like this and, you look at your coverages and all of a sudden you find out you don't have enough coverage. That's a pretty awful experience.
Yeah, and from somebody that's rented a lot in their life, it's really not that expensive. It's rather, or at least from my experience, it's pretty cheap overall. It's it's a must in my opinion.
Definitely.
And we'll do one more question before we take a quick break, guys. We're talking with Cody and Logan Albert. Cody Wolff and Logan Albert of Pro Response Restoration. If you want to reach out to him, Phone number, 469-858-1811. That's 469-858-1811. Pro-response.com. That's pro-response.com is the website. You can check it out. They love to hear from you, more importantly. One more. Where are my items stored when Pro Response has them? I like that.
Well, we value your privacy, so all the pictures that we take in your house, they're stored on our secure server.
Mm-hmm.
All your things are stored at our secure facility. No one else goes there but us. No other homeowners can go in there and walk around and see your things. Everything's very private, very organized, just with us.
Yeah, I'm really glad you guys, we talked about that and it came up because I'm sure that's a major question and people are probably curious what happens if they do have to deal with this. Where did their stuff go? Yeah, that's a underrated question, I guess you could say. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, though, guys. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We're talking with the fine folks at Pro Response Restoration. Quick break, only a minute and a half. We're going to come back, and we got a lot of information still to get to. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We'll be right back, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We do this every week, 10 to 12 on Saturday mornings. Today we're joined by Pro Response Restoration, Cody Wolff, Logan Albert in studio. Great to have him here. Before we get back to the guys, online, you can find them online at pro-response.com. That's pro-response.com. Phone number, 469-858-1811. That's 469-858-1811. Let's get right back into things. A lot of stuff to cover, guys. If somebody gets caught up in a situation during a disaster, if they have to move out during a disaster, where do they go?
They can be set up with temporary housing. That's actually a big benefit. Most policies do cover it. Okay. They have some sort of ALE, assisted living expense. And what that allows, these customers to do, especially if majority of their home's affected, even if, part of their home's affected, you lose your kitchen, you unfortunately can't make dinner. A lot of people are working from home now, so they need to be able to still function, do their daily job, have internet access, phone call service, whatever they need. And so there's actually coverage for that. So they'll actually bring you, put you in some sort of temporary housing, whether that's a hotel. They can actually put you up in Airbnbs. That was very common during the freeze last year.
Okay, yeah.
They try to find something close to your home where you can, still check in or potentially be near that area if you need to. And definitely a benefit to take advantage of in this situation for sure.
So this should be pretty common in most people's policies.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. If they are in that situation and they do have temporary housing, what about the cost? Is it their responsibility or is there coverage for this? Like you said, we kind of mentioned it, but this should be in the policy, right? Or is there certain circumstances that this might not be the case?
Well, I'd say most of the time there's obviously going to be coverage for it. So, the homeowner or the policyholder wouldn't be responsible for the costs of living elsewhere temporarily.
Hey, that makes people feel a lot more comfortable. I mean, that's just would be another burden add-on on top of that. So, very cool, and I'm glad to hear that from a personal standpoint because I can tell you I have never checked to see if I had that, but I'm assuming so.
Definitely.
If I move into temporary unfurnished home, can some of my belongings come there, guys?
Yeah, of course. A lot of times these temporary homes, people get set up in, they'll have, furnishings. But if you need things like I said, people work from home. They need specific items in their house. So we can actually when we itemize everything, inventory it, everything is QR coded. So if they need certain items, we can actually bring those directly to the place that they're being set up with temporarily. There's also really good companies out there that one we work with is VIP Insurance Housing. So they're a company that actually assists people with this situation. If they have a fire where they need to get out and move into something that's like in quality, that's usually the terminology that's needed for them to move out, actually have a place to be, make it somewhat livable, until their home's done. And usually, these processes can take 6 months, 8 months, and people need to be in a comfortable situation, not stuck in a hotel. So definitely using some of those other resources is a huge benefit as well, and we can actually assist people bringing their items.
Yeah, and that just goes off what we were talking about in regards to if you don't have the answer, you guys definitely can point them in the right direction, so you have a company in itself that can pretty much help misplaced people if they're in a bad situation. Very, very nice, guys. It was built off of it. Temporary housing, I think a main question people wondering, do they get to choose where they go?
Most of the time I've encountered insurance puts you somewhere nearby, but I'm sure it's the set amount cost. So they'll give you what they're going to spend on your temp housing, and if you find something that you love that works, go for it. But real quick, off topic, kind of, you reminded me, Cody, if you're going to be out of your house for however long in temporary housing, definitely take, especially if there's a pack out going on, take all your birth certificates, social security cards, clothing for 2 to 3 months, just in case anything important like that, anything crazy sentimental, you just want to keep with you.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of those. I know me personally, I got a firebox. A lot of people probably, if they don't, I would invest in it because you can put all your birth certificates and whatnot in there, and it's a good way to go about it. So I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Last but not least, if the claim is done and items that were repaired break, is it too late to claim? How's that work out, guys?
I guess that could be, two directions. If it's something that was potentially restored and there's a default warranty part, finish doesn't quite match. Obviously there's a warranty on things. So typically I'd probably be in the year range. It's typically on, any reconstruction. But if it's something that, say, you missed, or potentially we missed on the inventory side, we try to be very thorough, but making sure that, hey, if something we thought maybe wasn't broken, but then we brought it back and, it's been sitting in the vault for that whole time. We know it didn't break on transit. That's something usually you can, keep these claims open for about a year. And, obviously that's something to, advise with your adjuster, things like that, or look through your policy to see what type of statute limitations there are. Obviously there is a statute. I mean, you can't claim something 5 years down the road that you knew was broken during this loss. But things do happen, and you want to make sure that we're very thorough and get the best possible scenario, right up front. So that way there's none of those issues down the road. But we want to be a very good company to work with. If it's something we feel like it's within our warranty, we're definitely going to take care of you and make sure that it's done right.
Yeah, and I kind of a question off that, is there, if there's a question in regards to there might be, it doesn't maybe look fully damaged, but it's somewhat, could that be claimed immediately, or is it really kind of it's a touchy subject, I guess, with the insurance company? It's really got to be completely a total loss. Or if it's 25%, I'd imagine you still want to replace it, correct?
Well, I mean,
how's that work?
Even for our guys who are doing the packing, there's categories. Something looks great, it's amazing, untouched, that's storage. Something looks like it needs to be cleaned, you go clean it. Something looks like it definitely needs to be replaced, that's it. But, there's also a questionable category, even for us, like the experts. So if something looks like you might need it replaced, just ask us, set it aside, ask your adjuster, take pictures. As soon as you can, take pictures. Documentation is the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cover your butt, I guess you could say. Cover all angles, and that would start with taking pictures. We're talking with Logan Albert and Cody Wolff of Pro Response Restoration. Remember, phone number is 496-858-1811. That's 496-858-1811. Pro-response.com. That's pro-response.com. Guys, we got a couple, about 5 minutes left on the show, and I want to make sure we reiterate. We talked about it earlier, but explain to the listeners all the multiple things you guys do. I want to make sure they understand. There's you guys are well versed in a couple things.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely specialize in a few things. Our core businesses is emergency services. Board up, things like that. If water floods, pipes burst in your home, fires is a really, especially on the content side, that's a very sensitive subject. Fires usually are an unfortunate loss. A lot of less things can be restored. But with that, we also specialize with hazard removal, mold, asbestos, lead, which is more commonly, just like we spoke last time in our show, it's actually a fairly common experience in a lot of these older homes.
Which is normal in the DFW in North Texas, right?
Correct. It's normal throughout the whole United States.
Oh, okay.
I mean, anything previous to 1980 is kind of that threshold. Obviously, commercially is a little different, but definitely these older homes, even after they've been renovated, they go right over the top of old materials, and usually that's the best way to do it and least expensive. But when these things happen, like fires and floods, unfortunately, you can't keep that material there. It's going to cause mold. It's going to deteriorate. So we need to get all that material out. So specializing on that hazard side, and then back into the contents piece. We want to be, these are people's belongings. These are the sensitive materials and really nostalgic memorabilia. For just their personal property. We want to take care of it. We want to be respectful. We want to make sure everything is inventoried and documented, because it's our job to be that expert in that time of need and make sure that these people get their, either compensated for the things that they're not going to get back, or really try to restore those items that potentially could have been lost.
Yeah, I know you guys could be dealing with some real sentimental value stuff. So I like I said earlier, I'm sure that's really comforting to the listener, knowing that, hey, if I'm in this situation, at least I know I'm in good hands.
Absolutely.
Last but not least, guys, and we'll wrap things up here shortly. If there's one thing that you really want to get across, that you want to really hit on to the listener, what would it be?
I mean, we care about you. We're going to go above and beyond for you. Even if we refer you out to somebody else who can do something we can't do, we're still going to be there to help you, to help guide you, especially through the insurance process. Because, I've never read my policy, and I work in restoration. So it's probably indicative that not a lot of people do. And we deal with it every day, unlike these people. This is the biggest event of the year, maybe of the last 5 years, and it's terrible. But for us, it's not to say we're numb to it, but it's an everyday thing. So we know how to go about it and how to best help you.
It's like the terms and conditions on anything. We ain't reading that. So I would imagine you're not the only one. 90% of the people out there, including myself, probably don't read their policy. You get a good number, you get the gist of it, and you sign off on it, right? Closing remarks, we'll close it out. What's your final say, guys?
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Logan, appreciate him coming on. It's his first time with us.
First time with us. Very awesome.
So awesome. He, like I said, he is an expert in this field. He's helping us in multiple capacities. And so, bringing him on to talk about the contents piece is something he lived and really is passionate about. It's awful going into these, situations with people and finding out things that are being lost or really displacing. And it's fortunate that there's really good companies out there that are willing to assist you. Obviously we're here to we're a business. We're here to make money, but as long as we can, really show that we do value people's contents, value their time, value their, just how awful the situation may be, we want them to feel comfortable that they could call us for any situation, and that we're either going to put them in the right, give them the best options, obviously work with their carriers, and that's kind of that two-way street. We want to make sure that you have a good experience with your adjusters and your carriers, and so we're going to be there to be that liaison in between and really, give you that expert opinion and could actually help the process move a lot more smoothly.
One more time, it's 469-858-1811. That's 469-858-1811. That's pro-response.com. That's pro-response.com. Cody Wolff, Logan Albert, great to have you guys in the studio. I look forward to talking to you all very soon, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been another edition of Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. Got a lot more on slate for the rest of the shows, so stay tuned. It's been another edition of Ask the Experts. We'll be right back at the top of the hour.